This afternoon, I am delighted to be the one introducing our guest speaker. I'm delighted because she hails from Maranatha. She's a sister and a friend. More so, I'm delighted because she is a graduate of our institution, the St. Lucia SDA Academy, class of 1994, to be exact. After graduating from high school, she worked for 9 years before heading off to college because she did not have any support system and the financial means to make it happen before. She finally decided to use all that she had, along with her knowledge of God and relationship with Him, to step out in faith and turn her obstacles into opportunity. Since then, she completed her undergraduate studies in the area of behavioral sciences with an emphasis in psychology with honors in 2007. Her master's in educational psychology in 2010, and now holds a PhD in educational administration with an emphasis in higher education and a focus on women in leadership, which she completed in 2014. Since completing her doctoral studies, she has traveled to over 60 countries, inspiring and empowering women of all ages. This has led to her own personal experience, uncovering a practical approach to a powerful prayer life. Additionally, she has published numerous inspirational books, including books on prayer. She has ongoing programs on 2 major Christian international television stations. She has launched the very first online prayer training program and serves as an adjunct faculty at a well-established higher education institution in Asia. Looking back at her past and the experiences that brought her where she is today, I think a better speaker could not have been chosen to speak on the theme From Trials to Triumph. Having said this, I have no doubt this afternoon she will be an inspiration to the young ones, ONCE, and the young ones, ONES, as she presents. With no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, parents, staff, and graduates, I give to you an author, an educator, a woman of prayer, virtue, and simplicity, and finally, an alumna, our very own. Please help me in welcoming our distinguished speaker, Dr. Nadine Joseph Collins.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
You know, it's crazy. You know, I've spoken on so many stages all over the world, but coming to this stage, just walking here, just to wait, my heart just began to beat so fast, and I'm like, okay, Lord, cover me. You know, because it's nothing like coming back home. You know, there's nothing like doing something at home where you're under more scrutiny, right? So it's a little nerve-wracking. So just say a little prayer for the sister as, you know, we go through this presentation this afternoon. First, I want to congratulate the class of 2019 for your accomplishment. I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. You did great. And I know that you did not do it alone. So I would also like to congratulate the principal, teachers, parents, sponsors the St. Lucia Mission of Seventh-day Adventists, the board of directors of the academy, family, friends, well-wishers, and observers for whatever role you played in these young people to the commencement of the academic journey here at the St. Lucia SDA Academy. 4 years ago, I was contacted to be the commencement speaker here for the graduating class at the time. But I couldn't make it because of my busy schedule. And this year, I was again contacted, and I believe that it was God's divine leading that I am here with you, class of 2019. And I'll tell you why. When I responded to the principal, I asked her, can you give me some information about the class? When she sent me the email, she said that the graduating class text was Jeremiah 29:11. Jeremiah 29:11 is the guidepost for my life. It is my favorite text. So I knew, okay, God was aligning something. Secondly, when she sent me the theme from trial to triumph, I said, okay, this is for me. I know that I needed to be here with you because I know from experience what it's like to go from trial to triumph. And so it is an honor for me to be able to inspire you here today. Now, your theme resonates really deep for me, and it reminds me of a song sung by Yolanda Adams. And sometimes when I preach, I drop a little song in there. Today I said I was going to read the words, but you know, guys know that song? I've come through many hard trials, through temptations on every hand. Though Satan's tried to stop me and to place my feet on sinking sand, through the pain and all of my sorrows, through the tears and all of my fears, the Lord was there to keep me, for He's kept me in the midst of it all. Now, I sang that song for you. I put myself out there like this because I believe that the class of 2019 have been through their fair share of trials, true or false? True. But God has kept you in the midst of it all, and you are here today because you are celebrating one of your triumphs. How many? One. Because you have many, many, many more to come. And so in order to do justice to the short time here with you, I was researching last evening, what is the purpose of a graduation commencement speech? And so I found out through Google University, thank God for it, that it is an opportunity to share my experience, values, and advice with you. I also researched how long that speech should be, because I know when we are sitting here, I sat where you sat before many times, you barely hear anything anybody have to say. And so I'm like, okay, how much time do I need to really be able to impact these young people's lives? And they said that this speech should be anywhere between 18 to 20 minutes, 25 minutes max. So I will endeavor to stick within that time frame, right? So my simple job here today is to inspire you to dream big. To dream what? To aim high, to seek your true purpose, and spend the rest of your life living it. In fact, that is what I travel all around the world doing, just trying to help people to understand what is my true purpose and how can I position myself to be used by God fulfilling that purpose. And so I'll tell you a little bit about my background. My mom is here with me, and I just want to thank her for taking the time. Just give my mom a little round of applause, Margaret Duncan. When I was a little girl, my dad visited from Barbados, told her that he was taking me for a weekend, and he kind of captured me because he let my grandmother raise me, so she didn't have a choice at that time. So I grew up with my grandmother. She was better known as Mahari. The older people may know her. She worked at a local bakery called Central Bakery. I'm not sure if it's still around. But she used to work there, and she used to make tamarind balls. Okay. She used to make tamarind balls for sale on the side. And so at the age of 4 or 5, I distinctly remember my grandmother having a conversation with my aunts. And so the conversation was about where I would go to school. You see, I had just finished Teacher Mason's preschool. That's an Adventist school in Marshall where I grew up, right? I'm a Marshall girl. And so my aunts and my grandmother was having that conversation, and my aunts and them had made a decision without my grandmother to register me at the Ave Maria Primary School. So during the conversation, I am hearing my grandmother say, I was about the age of 5, my grandmother saying to them that Anna will not go to any other school than the Cashews SDA Primary School. And her words were, and I never forgot it, cut, not cut, cut my 2 foot and call me shorty, not over my dead body. I never forgot those words. And so you could imagine by the time I was ready to get to secondary school where she wanted me to go to school, right? It doesn't matter if you do government exams or not, you will be heading to the St. Lucia SDA Academy, no choice. And so in 1989, I enrolled here at the St. Lucia SDA Academy. 5 years later, in 1994, exactly 25 years ago. And I think I see one of my classmates here from class of 1994. But exactly 25 years ago, I walked down the very aisle that you guys walk down today. Back in the day, we didn't have all the grand style with our parents and everything that you all had today, the medals and everything. But I remember distinctly walking down the aisle with my partner. We were partners, according to our surname, Roger Joseph. I remember specifically our valedictorian of that class, Lincoln Clark. And so I remember the bond I felt with some of my classmates, but I also know how sad and uncertain I felt on that day, even though it was my 17th birthday. And I know there's somebody today celebrating their birthday as well. So if you're like me, girl, I graduated on my birthday as well, my 17th birthday. How old are you today? Awesome, 18th birthday, great stuff. And so I remember my dad also not allowing me to go to the class party that was being held in Labey. He asked me some questions like, will there be any adults at the party? And of course the answer was no. And he was like, okay, well, you're not going. And so my graduation night, my 17th birthday, we were walking in the boulevard window shopping. Yes. And so at that time, you know, there were many things I also didn't know and understand about life and of myself. I didn't know the power of the text that you guys chose for your theme text, Jeremiah 29:11. That text has so much power that I had to rewrite my message because the message that I had for you today was preached yesterday. So last night I wrote another message, and then this morning I felt like I needed to change it. But the thing is, I didn't know the power of that text at the time, at my young age of 17. I didn't understand that God had that great expected end for me. And my life was in for a beautiful treat. I say beautiful because all the good and bad stuff all works out for your own good. We'll get to that part. So part of my concern at that age, much like the concern of many of you in this class of 2019, is what is next for me? How many of you worried about that? Like, what's next? Right? You may be thinking, what will happen to me? The past 5 years or so have had some trials. Maybe I've had some challenges paying my school fees. You know, I had some issues with my grades, maybe some health problems. I had some problems with my teachers and my classmates. But now that it's coming to an end, what's next? How will I navigate in the world that is not protected by the four walls and even, you know, caring people? And these concerns will grow deeper for you, especially if you're from a humble family and you're called poor. Note I said called poor because you are richer than you know. You just have to figure out how to claim the inheritance because your father is rich in houses and land. He owns the world and literally holds it in his hand. So what next might be a concern for you if you do not have a scholarship to go off to college, if you may not be able to take a loan to do that, or may not even have the grades to apply to a college, at least not yet. I understand all of these because I've been there. I did my CXCs. I believe at the time I may have done 5 subjects. I understand when the valedictorian spoke about the number of principals that passed through her 5-year journey here. The president. You know, I remember in one of my semesters or one of my terms here, we had 6 teachers. We passed through 6 teachers for one subject. And so by the time we were ready to do CXC, you know, you would just take what was available. So at that time, I did 5 of them. And I didn't get a passing grade for mathematics. And I did it twice before I actually got the grade that I wanted to be able to apply for college. My first job after graduating from the SDA Academy was at a preschool in the Gardens. I don't know if they still call it the Gardens, but it's down the hill there by Lance Road, right? I was making $300 a month. Yay. Second job was to manage a little boutique. Same $300 a month. Yay. Right? Then I had another job that was more in line with what I had studied in school because I had done the office procedures and stuff like that. And I was making about $700 a month. But then I clocked a job, yay, right? Then I clocked a job at the Bank of St. Lucia as an admin assistant, and it seemed to be coming together a little more. But by that time, who was saying yay with me? Woo. But by that time, I had a better understanding of God. And I began to realize, I began to realize that the promise of Jeremiah 29:11 was bigger than where I was, even though I had no idea what God's expected end was for me. They like yay. We're going to be shouting here, right? So the thing is, in all, I worked for 9 years before heading off to USC. By that time, most of my close friends had already gone to school. Some of them had already returned home, and they had jobs. Some of them were continuing to do their studies, because when I grew up in my beautiful island of St. Lucia as a child, the larger society and the church was really heavy set on having expectations of you based on your family name. I pray that we have changed in Jesus' name. But life and maturity has taught me that many of these people that we looked up to as children as being part of a particular status and the haves will really have knots, masked in nice clothes and a lot of false confidence and well-hidden closeted family issues with a last name that literally meant nothing. But it took me knowing and understanding who God is on a personal level to know and understand that I am here for more. And it did not matter that my last name was Joseph, which I didn't like at the time because in the directory, it was like the most common surname. And then Alexander and Charles, I think. But it was so common, and I didn't like the name. I was like, it was too popular. But let me tell you something. As I grew more in maturity with the Lord, I began to love that name so much when I began to fall in love with Joseph, Jacob's son, and just take the blessings that come with it. So now I love the name Joseph. So it was so common. But what I understood at a particular point was that God had amazing things to do through me. Jeremiah 29:11, your theme text. One of my favorite versions says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a great future, to give you an expected end." Your theme needs to be forever a reminder that you are here in the world for great purpose, because God has to accomplish something very unique in the world that he can only accomplish through you. Each of you. You need to be saying amen or yay. This is the yay time, yeah. He can only accomplish it through you. He has something amazing for you to do, something for which you have been divinely designed and destined to do because you were born for it. Yeah. Even though the world has 7 million people and growing, nobody can fulfill the work that God has destined for you. That great expected end that he has for you, there is nobody in the world who can do it the way that you will do it. Y'all got to be more excited if you're going to be saying yay. That's right. So I'm sure you would have heard about vision boards, right? You guys heard about vision boards before? And so in the vision board, psychologists say to people, if you want to do something great in your life, you want to be something, you want this big house or this car or you want this, take a board like this. Take a board. And put yourself in your graduation gown at the end of your 4 years of university, right? Put that car that you like, that you want, put it on that vision board. They ask us to do these things because they say if you have it in front of you, it keeps you focused on what you want to accomplish. But I want to tell you something about God. I believe that he is the greatest psychologist. I believe that he was the first one to use vision boards, because if you analyze your theme text, Jeremiah 29:11, it says that I have a great expected end for you. That's God's vision board for you. He said, I have plans for you. I have a hope for you in the future. I have a great expected end. And so that is God's vision board for every single one of you. As you journey through life, every time you begin to look at your circumstances, and doubt. Because trust me, you will have these moments where you begin to doubt that great expected end. When you go through these moments, every time you look at your trials and your failures and your disappointments and your regrets, every time you look at your accomplishments, your success and your wins, remember to stay focused on God's vision board for you. Amen? God's end plan for you, that great expected end. You may not know it now. There may be many times in your life where you will not know it, but you can believe God that if he says, my vision board, if psychologists believe that we can accomplish things when they're placed in front of us, how much more powerful would you be in your life if you have the vision board of God placed before you that says, I have a great expected end for you, even when you don't know what that is. We just have to trust him because he'll bring it to pass. And so there are many things that I wish I could tell you that I've learned throughout the past 25 years. But I will leave with you what I believe to be some key principles or pearls of wisdom that I have learned from experience that keeps me guided by God and grounded in him so that I can live my wow life. Because what I do is to tell people how you can live your wow life. Because I say every Christian needs to have a wow life. Our life needs to be so amazing that when we're talking about God, we have so many testimonies. It's like, wow. That's the life we're all seeking for, that wow life. And so one thing I want to tell you this afternoon, I'll tell you 10 quick ones as I wind down. Do not despise small beginnings. Do not despise small beginnings. One of the biggest problems we have in society, especially in a small one like ours, is comparing ourselves with others and despising small beginnings because we believe that we must start at the top. Many of us feel as if we must start at the beginning of the line or else we are failures. We must be in the front or else we are not important. But I want to tell you something about each of you and every one of us in this room. You were born a winner. You believe that? Because I wrote a poem many years ago. We are all winners because we won our very first race. Anybody want to guess what race you won? Conception stuff. You know what I mean? You won the very first race. You made it. There were like millions others trying to get where you got. So you're born a winner. So God has a great expected end for you. But sometimes you will have to exist. I know you're excited about that. It's not biology class now, though. But I know that God sometimes, remember we're saying don't despise small beginnings, because sometimes God will have you in obscurity before he can trust you with notoriety. Sometimes you will have to learn to be in the background before you can be in the front. Sometimes you have to start from the bottom before God can trust you with the top. And so if we look at the Bible quickly, there's this guy named Elisha. We all know about Elisha, right? For many years, Elisha had to carry the coat of Elijah, bring him water, wash his feet, be his assistant. The entire focus of Elisha's life was to serve Elijah. He was like at the beck and call of Elijah. But Elisha himself did not focus on his own life's assignment. He focused on Elijah. And we see how the Lord was able to give him a double portion of his blessing and later on give him the position that Elijah had. Because sometimes we have to learn to work behind the scenes before God can trust us in the front. And that's why nothing in life goes wasted. Sometimes you might think you need to have this big job right away, but God might put you in the little one to teach you some lessons, to teach you some practical tools that you need for when you are where he needs you to be. So that's why nothing in life goes wasted, regardless of how you view it. You see, I told you about my early work life, right? I told you how I had the job that I was in the preschool and so on, $300 a month. But the thing is, what I learned through these years in each job positioned me better for the next job and for college and for life and for success. It's because of my humble beginnings and the years of obscurity while I was in Trinidad studying, traveling around with my friends, ministering to people, and the only thing that I did was to sing a song. And sometimes one of my older friends, she would say to me, sing that very same song. She'd want me to sing it over again, regardless of what program she was at. Until last year, I was doing a week of prayer at a church in London, and right before I was about to speak for the divine service, this lady sang the song that I sang for so many years before Dean Buffon spoke. It brought me full circle. I was weak. I was close to tears because I thought the many years in obscurity was preparing me for that moment. So it is because of these small beginnings, sometimes when I felt overlooked, right here growing up as a young person in Castro, St. Lucia, which is originally the church that I grew up in actually. I was dedicated in Maranatha, but I grew up in the Castro Seventh-day Adventist Church, many times feeling sidelined, not feeling positive about certain things. It is in those very moments and so on, just being able to go through these experiences, not having a voice to defend myself against the wolves in sheep's clothing and so on, but I learned the beauty of small beginnings. And one of the things that I learned is that if you are faithful in little, God will trust you with much. In fact, in Luke 16:10, it says, if you are faithful in little things, class, take note of this. If you are faithful in little things, God will bless you with large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, he says you won't be honest in greater things. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And in verse 12 it says, if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? These are biblical principles. You need to learn to exist in obscurity before you can receive notoriety. Because if God can see that you are trustworthy and faithful in supporting others, and I'll talk about that more, then he can trust you with your own. The second thing is I want you to put the first things first. You do what? Tell me that again. And the first thing that you need to put first is God. You need to focus on developing a relationship, personal relationship with God. Why is that important to you, class of 2019? Because God is the one who will direct your steps. God is the one who will tell you where he wants to position you. He is the one who will be revealing to you, in fact, what his expected end is for your life so that you can actually fulfill it. You need to spend time seeking out your true purpose. Years ago, I wrote a phrase, life without purpose is almost not worth living. I cannot imagine what my life would be if I woke up every day not knowing why I was here. It feels like a life where an aimless one. And I sometimes think about people, I'm like, people say to me, they're bored, and I'm thinking, I have so much to do. If I had to wake up bored every day, I don't know what I would do with myself. And so you need to spend time seeking your true purpose because God has a specific purpose for you, as I mentioned earlier on, and he has created you for that specific purpose. The truth is, each of you are an original design. You are not a photocopy of anybody else. You are a limited edition. There is no one in the world like you. There is no one in the world that can do you but you. Because you are the apple of God's eye singularly. When God looks down on earth, all he sees is you. So literally, when it comes to God, you have no competition. Yo, don't disturb them. They need the word, eh? Listen, guys. When it comes to God, you have no competition. You need to remember that. Right? So there is, for you graduating class, no one in your class, no one in St. Lucia, no one in the world can prevent God's expected end from being accomplished in your life. No one in this room can steal away anything that is meant just for you by God. No one in the world, your family, community, church can replace you because God's great expected end for you and for each of us is cookie cut and there are no substitutions. So it's important for you to know that because as you go through life and you ask yourself these fundamental questions, who am I and why am I here? Sometimes when you don't know who you are, there are many people who will try to volunteer and tell you who you are. They will make comments about you because you're cute, they have stuff to say. Because you're gifted, they have stuff to say. And sadly, it's not just young people, it's older people looking on who will not speak goodness into your life. And so you need to know who you are. You need to recognize that you are special, that limited edition created by God, and you are sons and daughters of God. So I tell people, and I used to tell my colleagues, you can call me Princess Nadine. You don't even have to put the doctor there. Because every time you say Princess Nadine, you are immediately saying that my father is the king. And so I want each of you to recognize that you are special, that you are a princess, that you are a prince, and that the only word that matters over your life is what God says about you. That's the only word that matters. That's why his word for you, I have a great expected end, is the only word that you believe. Anything else that is said about you is none of your business. What God says about you is all of your business. And that's why your job is to constantly seek God and ask him, Lord, what will you have me to do? What is your will for my life? Why am I here? And at different stages in your life, your purpose might change. That's why you need to remain connected to God. Because when the purpose changes, you need to be fully aware of what it is. So you cannot say, this is my purpose for the rest of my life. Because God may have something for you to do at a different phase in your life based on your life's experiences and so on. And so, the fourth thing you need to do is to seek the pearl of greatest prize. The what? The pearl of greatest prize. Not the prize, but prize. And so the reason why it is important for us, because many of us sometimes believe that we cannot accomplish great things because we attend Adventist schools. Many people believe that you can't accomplish great things because you came to the SDA Academy. But the mathematics of God continues to confound them, because they also thought that nothing good could come from Nazareth. So you are in good company. I told you how I went to college 9 years after graduating, right? After my peers. But what I did not tell you, I went late, but I finished early. I mean, I surpassed many of them in their academic journey. I excelled. And so the girl who was afraid to go to school, I remember saying to my managing director at the Bank of St. Lucia that, you know, God told me to go to Caribbean Union College. But I was afraid of failure. And he said, Nadine, Joseph afraid of failure? And he laughed. But that girl who was afraid of failure, afraid of going to college and so on, after being in the workforce for 9 years, who did all of these menial jobs, excelled. I passed every semester. I was on the honors list every semester. I served as president of the Honor Society for 2 years. I served as the student body president. I sat on the administrative council of the university. I served on numerous communities, so many to mention. The girl who was afraid of failure because I came from the St. Lucia SDA Academy and nothing good could come from there. Not so. In the end, I graduated in the top of my class. And when I did my PhD, I made history at that GC school I attended in being the first person to defend the doctoral dissertation without having to make any changes to my manuscript. I came from the St. Lucia SDA Academy. All of that happened because I knew who God is. I understood his power, and I also understood that he had a calling on my life. I know I didn't have to compromise. I don't need to be in any sorority or fraternity. I don't need to be in any Freemason or no club or nothing like that. I know God. And because I know who he is, and because I know his power, I can stand in that. Because at every level of your journey, at every step, I had him with me. I knew that I was not on my own, because my grandmother chose to be obedient to his leading when she enrolled me in our schools. And then later on, I chose to follow her example, and I enrolled in all of our schools from preschool to PhD, studying in only Seventh-day Adventist institutions. And in case you are doubting our education system, many pearls have emerged from the so-called discomfort of our Adventist education system. Out of this very little academy, I am one of them. But there are many bright stars who have gone before me, who continue to make great contributions to the world and inspire me to continue to trust in God. We know David Williams. He's always here. He makes contributions right here from our St. Lucia Seventh-day Adventist Academy. His sister, Lena Williams, and her sister, Ruth Williams. You have a rich legacy that has gone before you, that if you seek the pearl of greatest prize, which is what God desires for you, God will shine through you. Number 5, I want you to show gratitude. In 1998, I attended a senior camp in St. Vincent. I will never forget the presence of the Prime Minister, Ralph Gonsalves, at the time. In his speech, he said something that has resonated in my head. It continues to ring in my head every time. He said, if you say thank you, you will have so much more to be thankful for. One of the biggest problems that we have is that we live in a world of people who feel that they are entitled. And as a result of that, we show too much ingratitude. God says in the word, ingratitude is equated to witchcraft. And so I want to encourage you, class of 2019, to always remember to say thank you for the small things and for the big things. For the smaller things, say thank you even more, because there is so much more where that came from. But gratitude is something that you need to have following you, going before you all of the time. Number 6, I want you to wait on your time zone. What? What's that? Wait on your time zone. In March, I was in Fiji for a week on vacation. I flew directly from Fiji to LA. I left Fiji at after 9 p.m., about 9:50 p.m. I landed in LA after 11 a.m. Then I landed in Atlanta, where I was just going to pick up a bag so I could head to St. Lucia to a women's event that I was speaking for here for Women's International Day. And one of the things that really struck me was that I enjoyed a full day in Fiji. When I arrived in LA, it was a full day there as well. I was able to eat and go around and then head to Atlanta and still arrive there on the full day. And what it taught me was that many times in our lives, some of you will go off to college quicker than others. Some of you will work. And the thing is, you may see people going ahead of you and you're thinking that their life is progressing more than you. But I want you to wait on your time zone. Because when your time zone comes, your full day is going to be there. So it doesn't matter who goes ahead of you. Because when your day comes, your day is coming in full. Number 7, I want you to celebrate the wins of others. You see, you need to learn to be genuinely happy when good things are happening in the lives of those around you. Don't be so selfish and self-centered that if it's not about you, you can't celebrate. Celebrate the accomplishments of your colleagues. Be happy for them when they are succeeding and you perceive that you are not. Be happy for your friends who will head off to college next month or the month after. Be happy for those who will get married and have kids, even though you're single. Be happy for those who get a job that they desire, even when you don't have a job. I remember for the 9 years that I stayed back here in St. Lucia working, I was so excited when my friends would come home from college. I was so excited that they were doing great things in their life. I was happy when we were reunited in church. I was happy when I got an MSN message. You guys don't know MSN. That's way before your time. How y'all know MSN? How y'all know MSN? MSN. Oh, yes, sir. And so I was so happy when I got that little message from them because I was excited because great things were happening for them. Because one thing I think I understood very young was that I had no competition and nobody was my competition. And so I could celebrate anybody who's succeeding because whatever purpose the person is fulfilling does not affect what God has to do through you. And so you need to celebrate other people's journeys because there are many people who are bitter and jealous when great things happen in other people's life. And I can tell you these people will remain where they do not desire to be year after year because they don't know how to celebrate others. And so don't let that be you, class of 2019. Number 8, do not answer to darkness. Answer to light. Let your success speak. It is the greatest revenge that you can give anybody. God will take care of the naysayers, the gossipers, the liars, and the whoever's. Not your role to take them on. Focus on the light of God and shine before men. In Matthew 5:6 it says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father. Let the Lord fight for you. In Exodus 14:14 it says, the Lord shall fight for you and you shall hold your peace. People will talk because they like to talk. And so you let them talk. But the Bible shows you in Isaiah 54:17, every tongue that rises against you, he's going to condemn it. The mouth of them that speak lies in Psalm 63 verse 11 says, he says it will be stopped. So your job is not to fight people. They will dig pits for your downfall, but Psalm 57 verse 6 says, just wait because they will fall in it themselves. In Job 5:12, Psalm 33:10, it says, they will devise plans, but the Lord will disappoint the hands of the crafty.